I would love nothing more than to have my mother's spaghetti delivered to me, and I would gladly give the Tupperware back with a smile on my face and say, can I have some more? So shame on you for even complaining about this, because the fact that you're even able to do this is a massive, massive luxury that you have.
Welcome to the global phenomenon, Surviving the Survivor, where we're all just trying to survive in a rough world.
And we're rolling. Karm, we had a fairly exciting call with our social media people. We have a whole team, Karm. We are like, I don't know, we're kind of like Kanye a little bit. You know, I was wearing a shirt last week on the podcast that says, I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman. And we're proving that true. We have a social media team, and we have a professional booking producer, the great Steve Cohen, the man who knows.
Can I just say something?
Yeah.
You sound like a real little rich boy
And
when you say what a big team we have. We have a very humble team, and we are broke.
And we have editors. And the only problem is we don't have real viewers yet.
Well, viewers is a detail.
But we're working on it. And we have a cool idea that we were talking about with our massive team. Shout out to Transmedia, Adrian Mazzone, and the great Jen Weinstein and Samantha. But we have a cool idea, and hopefully we are able to roll it out.
Don't dare to share it.
I have an exhibit I brought in today. Karm. This is called Exhibit A in Jewish folklore. One dish, for those who are listening, I'm holding up various pieces of Tupperware and lids, and I'll tell you why. I went to pick up Karm today, and because I am going straight to my quote-unquote real job after this, and I have to go look appropriate. I'm wearing a BJ Penn for Governor shirt, so I can't wear that to work. So I had to go back home, and Karm screamed, "Don't forget the Tupperware. Don't." And Ileana, my lovely wife, was at home. Karm, why is it that Jewish people specifically, after a certain age, want their plastic dishes back? I actually went into the house, forgot about him, came out, and you said again.
No, I did not. She did. Jennifer said.
Oh, Jennifer, the lovely Jewish woman who we love at Transmedia, who we were on the call with, said, Joel, did you get the plastic dishes for your mother? At which point I said, oh, shit, I forgot to get the plastic dishes.
Wait a minute.
But Karm, why
Wait
is it
a minute. I have to explain.
Yeah.
I am not a good cook, but every now and then, my granddaughter loves spaghetti and meat sauce.
These are the dishes. I'm hitting them together right now for those listening at home. It is a $1.29 Rubbermaid.
And I love my daughter-in-law, and she's the greatest person. But when I deliver food, they also like raw cucumbers, and they like strawberries with sugar.
Sugar, correct.
So all these things, by the way, I make the best strawberries.
They say you make the best strawberries.
Yeah, and because I put a lot of sugar. So I give them the food in these dishes, but my daughter-in-law, who doesn't suffer from OCD, or maybe not in this way, she keeps them and she doesn't even use them, and I run out of them, and then I cannot even send more food because I have no place to put it.
Adrian Mazzone, I'd like you to weigh in on this. Do Italian mothers ask for their Tupperware as well? If there are any,
I did not ask for Tupperware because I am broad-minded.
If there are any people of color watching who would like either brown or black, and you'd like to weigh in.
Well, Ileana is brown.
Brown. Her mother would never ask for plastic dishes. What do you think the total cost?
Would her mother send spaghetti and meat sauce?
What do you think the total cost on these dishes to my left?
It's not a question of cost. It's a question of I don't run around. Yes.
Okay.
Gee, like you make me even cheaper than I. Why do you make me do this?
Karm, you look beautiful today with your blue wrap, your matching blue necklace. You really.
I dressed up because we have a very special guest.
We do. Coming up on the main Schmooze.
Can I specify why is he special?
Yes, please do.
Because
do you remember his name?
Ariel, what's his last name?
Helwani.
Ariel Helwani will talk about MMA. MMA, and I will be very frustrated because I cannot butt in
Do you know what MMA stands for?
A mixed martial arts.
Excellent. Ariel Helwani is not a journalist. He's the journalist. He is in a lot of ways the face of the sport of mixed martial arts. And for all of you older people who don't give a crap about mixed martial arts, number one, it teaches you about life. And number two, he's a nice Jewish boy from Canada. And we're talking about some of those things as well. So there's reasons to stay tuned. We'll be right back. If Karm doesn't hit the mic stand another 20 times. We'll be right back with the inimitable Ariel Helwani on the main Schmooze.
Do you want to help my son? His company, Content Partners Media, specializes in brand video and content creation for innovative companies and others. Please go to www.contentpartnersmedia.com and hire him. I repeat, please go to www.contentpartnersmedia.com.
Welcome back to Surviving the Survivor. It's time now for the main Schmooze.
Karm, we shoot the show out of sequence. You were asking me, Joel, who is BJ Penn? Any idea who he is?
Well, you said runs for governor in Hawaii.
He is a politician. He's a tried and true politician. He is also one of the most famous mixed martial arts athletes of all time. He's a Hawaiian. He's a prodigy. Karm, are you into mixed martial arts at all?
You know the truth.
What's the truth?
I don't understand martial arts.
Well, the good thing is you're about to, because we have Ariel Helwani, who in many ways is the face of MMA. Ariel, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's great to be here. Thank you for having me. I refute the face of MMA title, but nonetheless, I appreciate the fact that you guys are having me, and I appreciate the fact that you refer to your mother as Karm and
Yes.
not mom. Why is that?
A lot of people, we go back and forth between Karm and mom, but for most other people, it sounds weird to call her mom, and they're more comfortable calling her Karm. Her real name is Karmela,
Right?
a K and one L.
Wow.
You're named after Mount Carmel, is that right?
Yeah, Mount Carmel.
Karmela is very upset that you're our guest today, mainly because she loves to talk, and says she does not know what she's going to talk about, but we're going to get her involved. But before we get into it, let me read this bio so people who are not...
Karmela, you were actually upset when you found out that I was the guest? That it hurts my feelings a little bit.
100%.
You were like, oh, this is a bummer.
No,
I'm going to
you
skip
know
this
why
one?
I didn't? You know why I didn't? Because I'm a good mother and I know how much he loves this sport and how much he looks up to you. He didn't stop talking about you. I thought maybe
This is like
it was a little already beyond the pale.
We had...
Yes.
Karm has a mic issue. Please talk into that mic, Karm.
Now, I truly was not upset. I was looking forward to it, and I'm going to practice not talking, which is kind of
No,
weird.
you're not. You're going to talk a lot.
Well, I have a lot in common with you both because I too am a mama's boy, and I presume that you are as well because you're doing a show with your mother. And I'm very close to my mother. She lives in Montreal. She's originally from Beirut, Lebanon. And I don't see her as much as I would like these days because of COVID and whatnot, but we're hoping to rectify that. And in fact, she, like you, knew nothing about mixed martial arts and is the last person on earth that you would ever suspect would watch this. But because she is such a great mother, she watches every minute of every show that I do, including the fights. Will wake up sometimes because she then gets emotionally invested in these stories and fighters, to the point where she has her favorites now only because I do it, only because I care about it as well. So the same way you care about what your son is into by doing this, I can relate to that because my mother is very much the same way.
Yeah.
Ariel, does she make you bring, if you borrow Tupperware, because
it's
this was the
only-
beginning of the show, does she make you return the Tupperware as well?
It's not
I had
Tupperware,
to go
it's
home.
plasticware.
Ariel, I'm a 52-year-old man. I had to go get the Tupperware because I have three
Plasticware.
children.
He's so disgusting.
She put watermelon and I think spaghetti in here. I had to return it. Would your mother yell at you if you did not return Tupperware?
She might ask for it back if I'm being honest, but I'm envious, and I hope you appreciate the fact that you even are able to have this exchange with your mother. I would love nothing more than to have my mother's spaghetti delivered to me, and I would gladly give the Tupperware back with a smile on my face and say, can I have some more? So shame on you for even complaining about this, because the fact that you're even able to do this is a massive, massive luxury that you have.
But it was just today. I
didn't even get to the bio. Let me get to the bio and then we'll get into all this, because I knew we weren't going to talk about anything related to MMA.
No, I want you to talk about MMA.
Yeah.
And I really, truly, truly accept. I consider it far out, but I accept that he's into it.
All right,
and they explained to me psychologically why he's
Ariel,
into it.
If she tried her hardest to not talk, it'd be absolutely impossible. Anyway, our guest today is a man I've admired from afar and quite possibly might be incredibly envious of. Ariel Helwani, through hard work and tenacity, has become one of the most recognizable faces in all of mixed martial arts, although he's not a professional fighter. He's reported on the sport since 2006 and was named MMA Journalist of the Year. How many times do you think he's been named MMA Journalist of the Year?
I know a few times. I saw it.
A few times, at least 10 times by my count.
I saw it.
He formerly worked for ESPN. Ariel and I have some weird similarities here. The ESPN part is not part of it, but indirectly, yes. But anyway, he used to, and now once again hosts the wildly popular MMA Hour, and has more fighters' numbers in his cell phone than Brad Pitt has chicks. Ariel is a proud native of Montreal. He said Montreal. Americans say Montreal. Often seen wearing his Expos hat. He's a huge fan of the New York Knickerbockers and the Buffalo Bills. Ariel, like Karm, is fluent in English, French, Hebrew. He even understands Spanish and Arabic. Karm, you understand Spanish, not Arabic.
Not Arabic.
He has a sweet
but
smile.
Hungarian.
He has a sweet smile that melts every Jewish mother's heart. He's a married dad of 3, like me. And as of March, Karm, he became a proud United States citizen. Now, you, Karm, in prepping for the show, called and said to me, and I quote here, he looks like a nice Jewish boy, but for the life of me, I don't understand what the F he does. You said that because you curse more than anyone I know. Does he run a website or something? ? Ariel, do you run a website?
Not really, to be honest. Thank you for that bio. I don't run any website. I mean, I run shows. I do some shows about the sport, mixed martial arts that you just spoke of. But I mean, I guess I have a Substack page, if you're familiar with that, where I do some writing. But I wouldn't say that my day-to-day duties have anything to do with running a website. Now, I must say, you would appreciate the fact, Karm, that I'm a son of immigrants. My father is from Alexandria, Egypt, and my mother is from Beirut, Lebanon, and they emigrated to Canada in the late 70s, and they met in Montreal and started a family and whatnot. And my parents knew nothing of sports, let alone, my mom was a bit of a hockey fan because, hockey was very popular in Montreal, but that was pretty much it. My dad really wasn't a sports fan at all. And actually my love of mixed martial arts was born out of my love of professional wrestling, WWF, with these big guys, Hulk Hogan. And I used to watch wrestling on TV all the time and play with my toys. And my father from Egypt would always get mad at me, like, why are you watching this? This is stupid. You're wasting your time. You're wasting a smart boy like you shouldn't be watching this. And now I remind him that because of that, I have now become this MMA reporter. And so it was better that I didn't listen to him and turn the channel off. So, over time, and now he appreciates it. So over time,
Karm, I did all of that, but I never turned it into a profitable business. But I did
never yet.
At Highland Park High School in the great state of New Jersey, Highland Park, New Jersey, at our gym in the late 70s and early 80s, I used to see Andre the Giant, Ivan the Polish Hammer Putski, Chief Jay Strong, but you don't remember these people. At Highland Pizza, I once saw the Samoan brothers or twins. Are they the Samoan brothers or the twins? I can't remember.
Afa and Sika?
Yeah.
The Wild Samoans.
Yeah. I think
you saw them?
I did see them. Yeah,
Wow,
You
that's
can believe-
amazing.
Not only did I see them wrestle, but I saw them eat pizza at our pizza place.
Wow, they're related to The Rock.
Oh, they are.
Yeah, they're.
So
I think.
Rocky.
Do you know who? Not Rocky, Karm. Do you know who the? This is gonna. Ariel, this might go down in history. This.
Yeah.
I will shut up. I will become now autistic.
Karm,
I will become
Karm,
catatonic.
do you know who The Rock is? The Rock.
I know that big actor.
Yeah. What?
Oh,
Yeah.
Very good looking.
there you go.
If he's,
You
is he your
nailed it.
type, Karm?
Well, no. I like your father.
So Ariel, there's some things I did not know about you. A lot of things, I guess, but I was going to go in a different direction that would really destroy the mood of this podcast. But you are related. I did not know this to Gaad Saad. Is that right? Whose brother was an Olympic judoka.
That's
Or however
correct.
you say it. Is that
Gad
correct?
is my Gad is my uncle. He's my mom's brother.
Wow.
He has now become quite famous, appearing on the Joe Rogan show and whatnot. And I grew up around him, and he was a tremendous soccer player. And my mom's other brother actually competed in the 1976 Summer Olympic Games, representing Lebanon in judo. And what was interesting about that was my family had just moved to Montreal, and what are the chances that the city that they moved to ends up being the city that is hosting the Summer Olympics, and he is competing? Like, it could have been anywhere, right? It could have been Beijing, it could have been God knows where.
100%.
And it just so happens to be in Montreal, which, by the way, weird in its own right that Montreal would host the summer games and not the winter games because, the weather and whatnot.
The weather.
Yeah.
Good point. I never
So
thought of that.
so he was there. He didn't go very far. He didn't have a very successful summer games, but he did carry the flag in the opening ceremonies for Lebanon. There wasn't a big contingency of people, but so I have I guess some famous uncles.
Karm, have you ever heard of God? Do you pronounce it Saad, the last name?
It's like a Arabic thing, so it's like Saad, but we
Saad.
would just say like
Saad.
God,
It's
Yeah.
an ayin.
kind of,
Ian.
yes.
Karm, have you heard of him?
No, I tell you something.
He's a
We
famous.
started this podcast.
He's on the Joe Rogan podcast, which Ariel I listen to because I'm going to overtake him one day. So I need to know my competition. But have you
Yeah.
ever been on the Rogan podcast?
Who, me? No.
No.
Joe Rogan. I thought you were asking your mom. Joe Rogan. I suppose Joe Rogan was always very nice to me when I started out. Actually gave me the rub long before anyone else. But I think because of, this is my
White,
hypothesis.
because of Dana White, I bet you.
How about that? Karm, you did your research, huh?
I did a little because I don't like to
Karm,
be
you
caught.
know what? You took me by total surprise there.
How about
It's
that?
Dana, by the way.
Dana.
You can say Dana.
Anyway, we know that story. Don't
No,
sweat
no,
it.
no, no, no.
Don't sweat it.
Karm, don't blow stuff. He was just saying. So what's up with Rogan? So
You see, Karma's a great mother because she didn't want me to go down this, negative
Yeah.
path. But
don't worry, I'm
also-
taking down some other negative paths.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
all I'll say is, I think because of his relationship with Dana, I can't be on, but it's okay. I talk enough for a living, and I'm on plenty of podcasts. And if you ask me, I'd rather be on this one than the Joe Rogan podcast. So I'm
Yes.
all good.
And long term, it will be beneficial.
So
Short term, it will be senseless.
Ariel, now that you're a United States citizen and we've breached into some territory that could be considered, I don't know, on the dark side. Let's go even darker. You're now an
Okay.
American citizen, and you hear about this
Oh,
my.
he
school
did a whole-
shooting
he
in
did a-
Uvalde. You've got
Joel,
3 children, Ariel.
Joel, can I just say something?
Yeah.
He did a whole podcast on it, and I watched it.
Oh, I didn't
and
know. Look
yes.
at this. Look at this. You did? I didn't know.
Not a podcast, but you made a long statement on
Yes.
it, how you feel about it. And you went into detail, and you have a 4th grader, a 2nd grader, and a pre-kindergarten.
Wow, Karm.
I'm
Impressive,
blown
right?
away by this. By the way, I feel bad calling you by your first name. I feel like it's a little
You
disrespectful.
can call her mom.
Listen, I'm so immature for my age, you can call me Karm.
Well, I'll call you Karmela.
Okay.
She's done more research than you, Joel, for this interview.
By far.
I
The
think
first
she
time
was, she
ever.
was playing possum. She was playing possum. She was doing the old rope-a-dope at the beginning.
No,
saying she
wait
didn't know
a second. Wait
Okay.
a second. Let me clarify. I know about you. I don't know anything about the sport. And I thought you two would get your juices going by talking
I'm
about the
gonna get
sport.
to it. I'm gonna get
That's
to
fine.
it.
And
that's
then
fine.
I'll have to shut up.
We're even gonna play a game later, but go on.
No. So yes, I did speak about it, and it has. I think how could this not affect anyone, parent or not? But I guess for me, when I see the pictures of the victims, I see my son. Right, my son is in the 4th grade. It's very, very hard. It's very hard to see this and to try to comprehend why something like this would happen. You see now, like some of the parents speaking about it. It's truly, truly heartbreaking. You don't know how to talk to your kids about it. You don't feel safe. We could go down an even greater path. I was watching one parent talk about it and say, like, why would God let this happen? And I remember the first time that I ever asked myself that question. Why? I believe in God. I pray every morning. I put my tefillin on every morning. I send my kids to Jewish school. So I believe in God, and I consider myself somewhat observant, and I'm very proud to be Jewish. But I remember the first time being in elementary school and learning about the Holocaust and saying, well, if there is a God, why would he allow this to happen? And so you ask yourself these questions sometimes, and you don't really have an answer for them. And I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about. It's a hard thing to swallow. It really is.
I don't want to.
But you know what bugs me the most right now? Like, it makes me angry. Many times I respond with anger. It bugs me that in a week, nobody will talk about it. Look at what happened at the top supermarket. Nobody talks about it.
And that's close to Ariel Helwani's heart. That's Buffalo. That's his football team.
Not only that, a day later, it will go from shock and sadness. And now we're at the point less than 48 hours later where it becomes this game of people talking about their guns and their Second Amendment.
Political football.
Ugh.
Political football.
I mean,
Political football.
Ariel, why do you think it happens here, but it doesn't really happen in Canada or Sweden?
well, it's a lot easier to get guns in America. That's number one. The laws obviously are very different here as opposed to in Canada. And quite frankly, like when something happens, I mean, we've seen what happens in Australia, what happens in the UK when this happens. People move to change laws to protect the people. In our country here, what happens? Everyone starts getting very defensive. Oh, you're not going to take my gun away. You're not going to do this. Well, no, we're trying to make this better for everyone. No one's coming to your house and stealing your possessions, but maybe we can make it a little bit tougher on, kids. I definitely feel like there's something to be said for social media and the internet and mental health and all that stuff. But guess what? Everyone's dealing with that all over the world. They're not dealing with it more in America than they are in Canada. I can assure you of that. They just make it a hell of a lot tougher, and there's stricter laws that allow people to, or don't allow people to just go into a store and do this sort of thing. It's, I bet you could look at the statistics of these acts occurring pre-social media, post-social media, pre-internet, post-internet. And there's no doubt that there's a correlation. And what scares me is that nothing happens. I thought Sandy Hook would be the worst day in American history. And now look how many times it has happened since. And the fact that nothing other than our kids have to, my kids were in preschool and they had to learn what to do if someone came into the school with a gun. But in preschool, they tell them it's a squirrel. Because their minds shouldn't have to worry about this. So they say, what happens when a squirrel comes into the classroom? You have to hide under your desk. You have to go in the closet. They don't deserve that. No one deserves that. And it's just very sad that it doesn't feel like anything's going to happen because nothing has happened in the last 10 years. The only difference between now and Sandy Hook 10 years ago, what has happened in the last 10 years is that kids have to know what to do if someone walks in with a gun. That's the only difference. That to me is crazy. It's absolutely
Salient
crazy.
point.
Very,
Salient
very depressing.
Point. I was a reporter at Fox 5 in New York. I was one of the first crews at Sandy Hook. We saw some of those body bags from afar, something I will never forget. And I covered Obama spoke in Connecticut after that. I really thought something would change, and absolutely nothing has changed. Ariel is right. Chris Murphy, the senator from the great state of Connecticut spoke, and he was talking about, he's from Connecticut, and Ariel said squirrel, but the kids in Sandy Hook, when they went back to school, they were having these images of stepping over their dead fellow students, and they had to use a code word, monkey. And anytime they said the word monkey, they had to be pulled out of class to get some therapy. And that's what's changed. These kids have code words. Anyway, I don't want to depress the entire audience, which is now tuned out, but hopefully, God willing, something will change in this country. Definitely not thoughts and prayers.
You know what? I made the resolution.
Yes. See, Karm, you're actively involved in this.
I am going to speak about this next week during our session, whoever comes.
Okay.
And I'm going to speak the week after, and the week after, and the week after.
Karm, you can affect change. You're a badass. You survive things. You should get your face out
Because
there.
I don't like that we speak about it for 3 days, and then there is a new news cycle.
When I talked to Ariel, he said, "What are you going to talk to me about for more than an hour?" And I knew this would happen, so I'm already stressed for time. One other story I have to ask you about before we get into Ariel Helwani. Karm, Cain Velasquez was the UFC heavyweight champion. He has a tattoo here that says Brown Pride. A gentle giant. Ariel knows him. I don't. Can tell he's a sweet guy. He finds out that his child, I believe, and Ariel can correct me if I'm wrong, was being molested. His daughter.
No, son.
He goes, son was being molested.
I know, and he shoots the person. Then you said, why didn't
this
he
guy
use
is
it?
a killer with his hands. You could have literally, like a
This
gorilla.
story I know because it was mentioned.
So he went, and this guy was a pedophile, had committed this crime multiple times, many times. Cain Velasquez loses his shit, goes out, chases this guy, ends up shooting the father of the guy, not the guy. The guy was out on bail. Since this happened, Cain Velasquez has been denied bail. Ariel, thoughts on this? I mean, obviously shooting someone is not the correct response, but Dana White said, look, everyone thinks about doing this. He actually did it. What are your thoughts on all this?
Well, my heart breaks for him because, as you said, he is really, really a great guy. Like the last guy that you would ever think would be in this position. And seeing the photos of him in jail, shackled up with the jumpsuit, is truly heartbreaking. And I can't imagine what is going through his mind, as not only is he in jail, uncertain of his future and how long he's going to be locked up for, but the reality of the situation is his son and his family has just been affected greatly by this monster, and he can't be there as a father to protect them. I actually spoke to Cain around October or so, and Cain is kind of a reserved guy. He's very he's kind of soft-spoken. He's a gentle giant, and when I had him on my show, it was the first time that I talked to him in about 2 years, and we had a wonderful conversation and then a wonderful text conversation afterwards where it seemed like he was in like a very loving and almost like a hippie phase where he's talking about ayahuasca and things like this. And it was just kind of nice to see him so happy, so free. He was smiling a lot. These are things that he didn't really do in his prime. And I was just genuinely happy for the guy. And so it breaks my heart that this has now happened. Not only, to him that he's like shackled, like his son now has to deal with this. And then you're sitting in a jail cell and you can't help your family. And the reality is that, someone needs to be there for these people. And so this idea that, look, I'm not condoning going around shooting people to retaliate and to fix your problems. But the idea that the guy who did this is out free and then the guy who retaliated doesn't sit well with me. And I don't really know what the answer is, but I feel like at the very least, if that dude is out free, then Cain should be out free, pending this trial, right? That is occurring, or that can occur. It just doesn't really seem fair to me that the guy who committed the initial crime that is, immoral, reprehensible, horrific, he's out free. And, Cain, who was trying to protect his family and who lost it, isn't out free. That to me doesn't sit well at all.
Karm, your take on this? I know you will have one. You understand the story, correct?
Yeah, I understand the story. And for some strange, weird reason, I don't remember the name, but in another context, we talked about this situation and we said, why, if he's such a good fighter, why didn't he just choke the guy?
He could have killed this guy with his bare hands. I think he was in a momentary, psychotic state. And I would be
He
too.
could have killed him with his own hands. He didn't need a gun.
Well, he'd still be in jail for doing that.
But it doesn't matter. But the reason I remember the previous conversation, but I don't remember with whom and when. The reason is that his hands, this is his fighting skill, and he doesn't use it to kill people like that. His hands. So he used the gun, which is.
Well, he would have been in jail either way, but
he would have been.
Anyway, there is a movement afoot, #free Cain, and I just hope that I have my free Cain shared at home. I just hope.
Well, will it be a jury trial?
There will be a trial, right?
Yeah, I believe so. I just feel like while this is going on, why can't he be home with his family? House arrest, ankle monitor, whatever. Just let him be there for his family because his family needs him now more than ever. And he lost it. And the guy didn't die. And I understand. Listen, I'm not a lawyer. I can't imagine.
The guy did not die?
No, he shot. No. He didn't even shoot the guy.
The father died.
No, neither
no one
died. But he shot the father, not the actual perpetrator.
Yeah. He missed.
He shot a moving car and hit the father.
Okay.
The father of the sick bastard.
Okay.
Listen, our audience is
the fact that neither of them died, maybe this is somewhat attenuating.
Cain, anyway, if you're listening to this, and I hope somehow you are, we feel for you. Karm is here for you. Ariel is here for you. I'm here for you. And hopefully some I know Derek Brunson was doing a lot with this, and I hope there's some justice.
A lot of people have.
Case.
Every time he has one of his hearings, I know Daniel Cormier has visited him a bunch of times. I mean, he has a lot of support, and I know Cain. He's a real great soul, and the last thing I'll just say is like I keep thinking about being alone in a jail cell and having to worry about this fate, this future, but then also thinking like, potential irreparable harm has been, done to your child, the most innocent thing in the world, and you can't be there to guide them, to help them, to be there for them. And I just can't imagine what is going through his mind. Like I truly, my heart goes out to him and his family. Like I just want to hug the guy. So it's a bummer.
Yeah, it is I'm the only one that could have Ariel Helwani on and then just ruin the entire show with.
It's just like a lot of bummer conversations here we're having.
Ariel, a question that was on my mind last night. Do you eat kidney oat on Passover? In other words, do you have rice? Because I can't do that, but as a Sephardic Jew, you can, right?
Absolutely. It's a big part of the Passover meals.
It's one of the many perks of being a Sephardi Jew.
All right, so Karm, I'm going to control this show now moving forward because there's a lot I really do want to get to.
Wait,
but move.
By the way, you're the one who's been bringing up all the depressing topics. She's trying to get off of them, and you're trying to get us back to depressing land.
I know, I'm trying to get us off now. So listen, I have not done this with any other guests, but I did go out onto Twitter because I follow a lot of MMA people, and I was like, listen, I'm having Ariel on. Fan questions, and I got a bunch. So intermittently, I'm going to disperse some fan questions. The first one: how many Expos hats do you own?
I have one right over here.
Karm, do you know who the Expos are?
Cut it out.
The Montreal Expos. They were a baseball team, and this is going to make Ariel jealous. But I saw them play at their stadium. I think in 1977. Did you see them play? Were they still? They moved in '83, right?
No, what are you talking about? They moved in 2004.
Oh, I don't know. Oh, what do I? They became the Marlins, right?
No, wow. Talk about...
the Nationals. The Nationals.
In 2004. They came into the league in 1969. They used to play at a stadium called Jarry Park. And then in 77, you probably went to Olympic Stadium, right?
Yeah, Olympic Stadium. Yep.
Yeah, so after the 76 Olympics that we just spoke about, they moved to Olympic Stadium. I was born in 1982. I mean, I have memories of
my bar mitzvah year.
Wow, Mazel Tov. Late 80s, early 90s going to games, and I was in love with them. How many hats do I have? I mean, at this point, I would say over 30. I have one right here to my right.
There you go. Look at that. Second fan question. Did you always want to be an MMA journalist, or did this just appear as an opportunity and you jumped on that opportunity?
Well, initially, I wanted to be a broadcaster, just a broadcaster, period. I mean, I first kind of came up with that dream in the 9th grade. I was reading Sports Illustrated, and they were, breaking down the best schools in America for X, Y, and Z. And I remember there was a little blurb which stated that Syracuse University was the best school for sports broadcasting. And I loved sports, and I loved TV, and I loved talking about sports. And I thought, I'm going to go to Syracuse University and become a sports broadcaster. And as I told you, ever since I was a little kid, I loved pro wrestling. I was a huge basketball fan, baseball fan. I loved all sports, but I always loved combat sports as well. Well, that was 9th grade, 1997. At that point, the UFC was just 4 years old. It wasn't exactly mainstream. When I got to Syracuse, I got into Syracuse in 2001 was my first year. For the first time in my life, I was surrounded by, kids who all had the same dream as I did. There was a ton of kids that wanted to be the next baseball, basketball, football broadcaster. And I remember telling my parents in 2001, now the UFC is 8 years old. So to suggest that I was jumping on some sort of like a hot, fad would be incorrect, because it was nowhere near as popular as it is today. And I remember telling my parents, there's this sport called mixed martial arts. And I feel like in 10 years, there's going to be some executive in some office in America who's going to say, I know nothing about this sport, but who's the guy? Who's the voice of MMA? Let's hire that guy. And I want to put myself in a position to be that guy, because when everyone's going this way, I like to go that way. And no one was really covering it. So in college, I had my own radio show where I talked about it and all this stuff, and just kind of worked my way up. And coincidentally, 10 years later, August of 2011, I got, kind of a big break working for Fox Sports. So exactly 10 years after I said that to my parents, I said it to them in September of 2001, August of 2011, I got the Fox Sports job. And of course, I still love other sports and I've dabbled in all of them, but it's been a long ride with MMA.
You know what you call that? A visionary.
No, it's a man with a plan.
Visionary. You know what I've been? A blinder.
My husband is 88 and he's retired. He's in a wheelchair, but
she won't bore you with the details. She's in a wheelchair.
But I just want to give him the background. He's a psychiatrist retired. And he always said to me, Karmela, I can't imitate him. You got to have a plan. He says, I made the mistake. I just became a psychiatrist. I did not have a plan. Which way.
That's what he told you. He told me, whatever you do, marry rich. And I didn't.
No, he didn't. He's
because
he married somebody who didn't have money for tuition.
Ariel's thinking, man, I thought I was a mama's boy. I thought I had a weird relationship with him. Am I married?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've got a wife and 3 kids. Beautiful wife. Yeah.
And he has beautiful kids.
I'm not that much of a mama's boy, Ariel. It took me a while.
I wasn't sure. Maybe you still live with your parents. I don't know. I'm not judging. How many siblings do you have?
I have an older sister who lives in New Jersey, and
has 5 daughters.
So it's funny because I'm 52 and I still harbor some resentment because for my sister, being the girl, they wanted her married, and she was valedictorian of her high school class. They wanted her to become a doctor. She went to BU's 6-year med. She was a doctor when she was 21. Little old Joel, they let me just blow in the wind for a while, and I ended up eventually getting a job as an NBC page when I was about 24, 25 years old, which is a very prestigious position relative. There's like 80 pages out of 4,000 applicants, and I too was I had a guy named Bob Stevens who kept, back in the day, a bottle of bourbon in his desk, and he was the drama journalism teacher at our high school. And I come from a long line of brilliant minds from my high school. I grew up connected to Rutgers University.
That's it.
And we had Bob Stevens, who influenced a lot of people, like the guy from Sex and the City who just passed away, went to our high school. David Camp, who was an editor-in-chief of GQ magazine, went to our high school. Sam Hoffman, who's directed 60 Hollywood films, went to the list goes on. Anyway, this guy influenced a lot of people. I was really into journalism. I wrote for the school paper. I went to Brandeis University. I wrote for the school paper. I was on a radio show. Never did I ever think, Ariel Helwani
had a plan.
He had a plan. At 7th grade, or whatever, he was thinking, okay, I'm going to do this. Joel came from a town of, I guess, a lot of doctors and lawyers and other people. And I always thought I had to be a doctor or a lawyer. And it wasn't until I did not begin on-air reporting until I was almost 35 years old. And I tell people, I was a producer before then, but if I had picked my path earlier and my last name wasn't Waldman and I didn't have very pasty white skin, I'd be a lot further along in life. But I harbor no ill will. Anyway,
it's neither here nor there.
Back on to, so this was interesting to me. So Ariel, once I got going in news, I had a singular focus, which was getting to the network, getting to the to play with the big boys. And that for me was network news. And I eventually ended up, I covered, unfortunately in news, you cover bad things which get you propelled places. And I covered the shooting of Gabrielle Giffords, the congresswoman. And that got me to New York, where I worked at Fox 5. But that wasn't enough. I was like, I've got to get further. I want to get to the network. And eventually I get a call from Roger Ailes, who ran Fox News, to move to the Washington, D.C. bureau and cover Fox News. And I got there.
Wait a minute. Whose podcast is this? Is this your podcast or his podcast?
And I get there and I never hated life as much. I bring this up because Ariel Helwani
loves about what Fox he's Sports. Doing.
He loves what he's doing. No, but he had a dream, I believe, to get to ESPN, right, Ariel?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And Ariel gets to ESPN. By the way, Ariel,
tell the story.
I went to Kutcher Sports Academy, and in 1979, ESPN used to cover a basketball game at Kutcher Sports Academy. That's how small a network it was in Monticello, New York. Ariel, you get to ESPN. Was this just an unbelievable fantasy for you? A dream of all dreams?
Oh yeah, this was the goal. This was the dream. Jewish boy from Montreal. ESPN feels like the impossible dream. I used to travel with my parents we didn't get ESPN growing up. We had the Canadian equivalent, which was called TSN, the sports network. And when we would go on trips to Boston, New York, Florida, I would watch ESPN over and over and over again because I was captivated by it. And so it took a while, and for the longest time it felt like they weren't paying attention to me. And then I finally got there in 2018. I remember when I got the offer, I started crying because I felt like I made it. And it didn't quite go as planned. I have no regrets. I made it to the end of the contract, 3 years. There were definitely some hard times. It wasn't quite as I thought it was going to be, but I definitely feel like ESPN, like I was afraid when I left ESPN that I would harbor resentment towards it and regret and all these things, but I don't. I'm thankful that I got the opportunity. I'd be lying if I said, I thought it was just going to last 3 years, but I'm very happy to be on the outside looking in now. And I think that it has helped me. It grew my profile. I met some really great people. I got to live out some dreams, NBA reporter, things that I never got a chance to do. And now I'm on my way. So I think like it was a necessary step in my career. Initially, when I got there, I was like, oh, I'm going to be here for 20 years. I'm going to be one of these guys. It doesn't quite work out that way. But I'm not upset about that. There was a time where I was kind of feeling a certain way about it, but it's been almost a year since I left, and I'm thankful for the time. I don't have any regrets. It definitely didn't work out the way I thought it was going to work out, but I don't feel like it was a bad thing that I left, or I don't feel like it was a bad thing that I even went. I think it made me into a better broadcaster. It made me, grew, like I said, it became more popular as a result. I got to do some things I never could have dreamed of doing. So it's all good. And I kind of honestly, I had to figure that out through talking to a therapist. I never really spoke to a therapist before, and I've always had a lot of anxiety. And when I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do next, I needed someone to help me kind of clear the clouds out of my mind. And in doing so and finding the right person, it really helped me figure things out.
You want to hear something funny? 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, we had on our podcast here a psychologist,
Bary Michels.
Bary Michels, who wrote a book called The Tools, who is in...
he's a celebrity to the
he's
therapist.
He's a therapist to the stars and the writers in Hollywood. But he has a totally new approach, and it was a very funny session we had. we kind of go off the edge. Like imagine us walking on a precipice. Anyway, Joe spent the whole session being the medium for the therapist's analysis of, he was like revealing himself, his anxieties, his obsessive compulsive behaviors, all that.
You see how even-tempered Ariel is?
No, he's not.
He's even-tempered, but
he's good-natured. No, but I think you come across here, but I think you also can be more.
He's fiercely competitive. The reason I brought up, obviously we're going to talk about ESPN anyway, and the reason I mentioned my issue with Fox News is for little young Ariels out there, the dream that you think you want to achieve is not always the end dream or the end goal. And what you wish for is not always what you want. I mean, when I got to Fox News Channel, I was never more miserable in my life, and I ended up leaving on my own, and I went through hell. For 2 years, I didn't know what I wanted to do. Luckily
there was COVID, so you really didn't know what to do.
Luckily, I found my mother and started a podcast. Which
is that why you started it?
Yeah, we did. We started.
No, we started it during COVID.
Wow.
We did. I was sitting around. He was sitting around more or less, and
I left Fox News. No one wanted to hire a middle-aged white guy, and I have 3 little kids, and I was like, I'm going to lose my mind. And I proposed this idea to Karm, and off we went. I told her she has to flirt with you today because you have 1 million Twitter followers and 1 million Instagram followers. And
I only flirt with people over 10 million.
And hopefully.
By the way, so how do you support your family, if you don't mind me asking?
I work for CBS News here in Miami.
Doing what?
A few days. I report.
On air?
On air, yeah. I've been on air.
Well, you totally left that little detail out. You make it seem like you're out of the game, you're out of the limelight.
Well, he's in a lot of games. He has a little business. He's full of baloney. Let me tell you.
I like to think of myself as entrepreneurial now. I also have a company where we do a lot of media type work, which was picking up pre-pandemic, and now I'm starting to build that back up as well. But honestly, this podcast is what I love because it's freedom. And like you went to ESPN, you've got corporate hands tying you down. When I'm on CBS, there's only certain things I can say, only certain things I can tweet. So even though I probably tweet things I shouldn't tweet.
Here you can only say what
you know. Who's a real horrible person, by the way, who I got in a little Twitter fight with today is, and you might know him and disagree, but Keith Olbermann. Cannot stand the guy. Know him personally.
You got into a fight with him?
No, I got in a little Twitter spat with someone that was supporting him, and I was not. But that's neither here nor there.
About what? The guns and all that?
Olbermann is just going crazy on the inaction of the police, but he knows nothing, and he'd be the first guy to run screaming like a little girl out of there. He likes to talk, so I don't know how to interject my own opinion. I'm usually pretty sweet, actually.
He's
dying.
Very good natured.
Yeah, I'm dying to ask Karmela some questions. Can I ask her some questions?
Sure.
Go for it. It's your show, Ariel.
Well, I just wanted to know, first of all, I'm sorry what you went through, and I wanted to know where you were during the Holocaust.
I was born in what was Yugoslavia, and then in 1939. When the Second World War broke out, and then it became Hungary in 1941, and then they didn't take the Jews away from the ghetto until June 16, 1944, when I was 5, and through miracles of sort, I was taken in by some nuns, and I ended up. Because my mother was hiding in Budapest at that point. After literally the morning they wanted to take us to the trains, to the cattle trains, my mother took me by the hand. I was 5, and walked out with me through a hole in the back fence in the ghetto, and kept walking and didn't turn back until she got to a Gentile eye doctor who was a friend of the family, and he introduced me to the nuns, and my mother left me there because she was afraid if she goes on the train to Budapest with false documents that they will recognize her because it was a small town. To make the short story very long, she missed me in Budapest after 6 months, and she had somebody bring me up there to hide with her during the siege by the Red Army, the Soviet Red Army of Budapest, and the bombardment of Budapest. And now what was going on with Ukraine, I finally Googled how long was I there during that siege, and turns out the siege started a few days after I came. The snipers, the shootings, the bombardments started a few days after I got there, and it lasted 50 days. And in my memory, Budapest looked like now Kirkov or not as bad as Mariupol, but looked like Ukraine, the Ukraine now. So that brings back memories of and then in the end we were liberated by the Russian Soviet army.
Wow.
And then we went back to my hometown, which is like 2-hour train trip. But it took us 2 weeks. We got back there and found out that my father was killed in the war.
For all you MMA fans who've tuned in to hear Ariel Helwani, you've now listened to gun violence, prison stories, and now the Holocaust.
I think I taint the conversation by my presence. I was 5 when it happened, 5.5, and since then. Something like 70 how many years passed, and I've had a wonderful life, and I feel wonderful. And let's talk about MMA.
Ariel, let me tell you something. So I am a mama's boy, no doubt, and I'm actually writing a book right now, a companion book to the podcast. Have you heard of Tuesdays with Maury? It was a book that was So I'm doing a version of that called Surviving the Survivor, a conversation with my Holocaust survivor mom, to get sort of real life. I'm going to present like 10 or 12 big life issues like children, finances, happiness. And Karm and I are going to discuss all this. And I'm going to put it down in a book, which I'm doing currently, including her story. But I have to say this about Karm. She is a real badass. You know, she's a tough woman. She curses a lot. My children all know all their curses from Karmela.
Not true.
She's very tough on. She's like the little league coach with me. Very tough on me. Sweet to guys like you, but very smart. And when you're talking about some of the anxiety that you experience, I got a lot of that from Karm. And my dad's also a retired psychiatrist. But one thing I wanted to offer up to you, my dad, with all his training, the one piece of advice that he loves to give everyone, he calls it Nike, not Nike. I don't know why. He says the Nike slogan: "Just do it." Says, no, in spite of your feelings, it's the actions that matter. Karm, you mirror this?
What?
You mirror this belief that Ariel was talking about anxiety. We're talking about...
No,
but you're saying
listen, I have a master's in social work. So I worked as a, quote, therapist. And people were always asking me questions, my child won't open up, won't speak about his emotions. He's very closed up. He goes in his room, he slams the door like teenagers, And I said, oh man, I envy you. My son is constantly talking about his feelings, He's a narcissistic little a-hole.
Yeah.
She's amazing. She's a great mom, Ariel. Tough woman.
No, I just wanted to add, if I could.
Go ahead.
The reason why I asked about that, I mean, obviously it's a topic that is, near and dear to my heart. I am Jewish. I'm very proud of being Jewish. I will always cherish a trip that I went on in 1999. I went on a trip called the March of the Living.
Oh,
I don't know if you're familiar with it. Yes. So we went to Poland and I got to go to Auschwitz.
My granddaughters did too. My granddaughters did.
So, that trip really changed my life.
That's where my grandfather, father, uncle, and everybody was killed, and I never went. but I know the March of the Living. So that changed your life.
Changed my life, without a doubt. I don't know if there's a day that goes by, honestly, that I don't think about that. It changed my perspective. It gave me a lot more gratitude. I was a lot more thankful. I remember one moment in particular, like we were there for a week, and then after we would go to Israel for Yom Ha'atzmaut, and they gave us these boxed lunches every day. And I remember the kids, we're in 11th grade, we're 17, and I remember the kids were complaining about the food. And I remember kind of snapping on them and being like, you have the audacity to be complaining about your tuna sandwich right now. Look where we are. Look what's around us right now. The people that were here would have done anything for this sandwich. There's ashes right over there. There's hair right over there. There are glasses over there, suitcases over there. And I remember it changing. I was kind of this like spoiled kid that didn't really appreciate everything and that I had. And I remember it really changing the way I viewed life. So I don't really have like a moral to this story, but just like I was very interested in hearing your story.
The truth is that I had 70 odd years to deal with it, but Joel kind of expropriated it. Now he is the victim of the Holocaust more than.
It's interesting. We never.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, we never discussed it. We never talked about it. Really, it was something we never talked about until well after I was out of college, and now we're so open about it. Karm is.
I tell you why.
Karm does not like to dwell on anything negative. She's all about doing and accomplishing and getting things done. And she's very entrepreneurial in her own sense. And not to depress the audience even further, but I don't think that's possible. She lost a child. She's been through a lot. And I don't know. And then we just started to talk about everything. And that's actually part of what we're doing now. We're doing a lot of public speaking at synagogues and places of that nature.
No, only do
the story is important. These stories like yours going to the trip to Auschwitz, Mike Littman went on that. And I'll never forget this. It was a weird conversation I had in passing with my best friend. And he went and he was visiting the camps and he was at Auschwitz and said to me that one of the things that struck him was the bunk beds were like on an angle down because they were so weak that they couldn't go to the bathroom, and they made the beds that way so the excrement would just flow down. Not to get so graphic.
Listen,
that's something that I think about a lot in a weird way, and it came up in total passing. So anyway, I don't need to tell Ariel or you, Karm, but these stories are important, and I feel an obligation as a son of a survivor to tell these stories, which is, I think, 100%. Partly why I created this podcast. And
it's very important because,
and through the conversations about anything like we're talking about with you, this stuff comes up. And
never thought in a million years that an MMA.
Which is probably why we have no viewers. But
this is probably why we have no viewers.
We are rapidly running out of time.
Let me tell you something very interesting. We have about, let's say, he says 56, 58. We didn't count all the
64 episodes.
64 episodes. Every single episode is a different interesting story with a different interesting person with a different background and I find that such a gift. I read up a little superficially on the people. Sometimes I read the book they wrote or something, but it's like all these worlds are open, okay? And I didn't want to be defined by the reason I didn't talk about it when they were younger, I'm not defined by that. That's not who I am. That's a part of who I am. But I am all these other different things. And you guys are all... Now, I was wondering, you are this MMA guy who has all these followers and do all this terrific podcast.
Yeah.
And
he's not the... I want to
no, but can I finish?
Articulate this. He's not the guy. He is the guy. Like, in other words... Fighters seek out Ariel because they know if they have news or something that they want to share, if they go on Ariel's show, that's where people are going to know about.
Well,
He's the man.
Can I just say something to you? I am very rewarded or happy or so that you are so open about your own identity, considering the contacts you have is a completely a much different world where you do your MMA, and then you are so open about where you come from and who you are.
Karm, you just segued into something that I really wanted to touch upon that you don't even realize
Maybe
you
he wants to
segued.
respond.
Well, the only thing I will say is that, there have been times where I have felt like it was important for me to speak up because, for example, if you recall last June, there was a lot of anti-Semitic acts happening across the country. And, I'll be honest, I go on my social media and I follow a lot of people who, for whatever reason, were, putting out a lot of anti-Israel, anti-Jewish stuff. There's a lot of Muslim fighters. Just a lot of people were very upset. And I felt like I had to say something. Now, I asked some people if I should say something and they said you shouldn't. And I just felt like I had to say something and try to explain to people that, the Jews that I know aren't anti-Palestinian, aren't anti-Muslim. We want to all live in harmony. We don't want any conflict. We've seen enough conflict happen to the Jewish people over the years. And I just, I felt like this, this string of anti-Semitic, violence was getting to be a little bit too much. And I felt like it was my duty to speak up. And so I feel like from time to time, it is my duty to speak up. It's my duty to represent my people as best as I can, to use my platform to at least not make it about myself or about Jewish people or make it political. I know people follow me because they're MMA fans, but sometimes certain things need to be said. And I'm very open when need be of who I am, where I come from. And one thing that my father said one time that has always stuck with me when I was in college, my father, is very, I guess, observant, and he donated money to our synagogue, and they named the Beit HaMidrash in his honor. And I went to this breakfast, and my father's a very sort of, mild-mannered, soft-spoken guy. He doesn't, at least not in public. And he gave a speech, which was very rare. And he said that, he was talking about his passion for Judaism and why he is so proud to be Jewish and identifies with Judaism and whatnot. And he said that, every morning as he goes to work, he likes to look at his arm after he puts his tefillin on, and he sees the marks on his arm from the tefillin, and he feels like that is his armor for the day. And that really stuck with me. And so here I am in my, later years in Abu Dhabi, in Australia, in Japan, in Ireland, in England, in Brazil, talking to these fighters. Some like me, some don't, and I have my armor for the day. And so I've always felt like my Judaism is my armor, and that's why I still put my tefillin on every morning, because my dad asked me to when I became, bar mitzvah, but also because I feel like, being who I am and where I come from and the people that I'm a part of, that is my armor as I go out in the world and talk to these crazy fighters.
Awesome.
That's beautiful.
That's awesome. So we're going to wrap up in a moment. There's one thing I did, which kind of
You
said.
didn't talk about a few
Yeah,
fighters.
so not to bring myself into it again,
Don't
Ariel, but one
do
day,
that.
so I'm covering the Super Bowl for Fox because that was part of my role. And I was in Houston, and the UFC, at least they used to always have a fight Super Bowl weekend in the Super Bowl city. This happened to be in Houston. It was the year the Patriots came back and beat the Falcons. So I'm doing shots, and Dana White is next to me doing like a media, gaggle. And afterwards, I rip my IFB out and I say, "Hey, Dana, I cannot handle covering politics another day of my life. Help me." And he was kind of a mensch in a weird way and said, "Hey, I'm auditioning people. This was for the Brendan Fitzgerald job." And he flew me out to LA 2 weeks later. I had never in my life done play-by-play.
Wow.
Bruce Beck is a friend, so I hired Bruce Beck.
You know who Bruce Beck is?
Of course. Legend.
Yeah. Bruce Beck.
He was on our
He covered the
podcast.
early UFCs. He worked with me for 2 weeks. They pair me up with Misha Tate, of all people.
Wow.
Misha, I love you, but she destroyed me because she did not have the on-air ability.
Yeah.
Kind of dragged me down. She's not the most effervescent personality. Anyway,
Right.
I came in second place. I lost to Brendan Fitzgerald.
Really?
I almost had that gig. Yeah, I almost had that gig.
I feel like there's a lot
And-
more layers to you than you're just kind of throwing these things, CBS, UFC. There's a lot going on here.
Yeah, but they've all kind of failed. So
No, it's still. I mean, these are some great stories. You're kayfabing me. You know what kayfabe means?
No.
What is it?
It's a pro wrestling term, like, for
What is it?
example, kayfabe. So, kayfabe is an old school pro wrestling term where basically, if I am playing a character on TV as Hulk Hogan, right, and you meet me and I act as though I'm Hulk Hogan and I don't tell you the real me, that's me kayfabing you. I'm giving you the show version of me and not the real version of me. And now, slowly but surely, you've been giving us the real version of you, and I think it's great.
Well, I appreciate that. So I bring up Dana White. He was good to meet, but Dana White runs the UFC.
I know.
He started as a kickboxing instructor. He was friends with these two brothers, Karm, named the Fertitta brothers, who are billionaires who started the UFC. They bought it for $2 million in '93, I believe. It is now valued at north of probably 5 or 6 billion, if not more. Anyway, Dana became a very wealthy man. It seems like Dana does not like you, Ariel. And the reason I bring that up is at one point he tried to ban Ariel for life. And the Jewish guy in me has to wonder, is there anything here that's personal, do you think? I mean, how personal did things get? I don't know how comfortable you are talking about it.
Oh my God, you were never paranoid.
I'm paranoid.
I am the paranoid.
Karm has always been paranoid. But I mean, do you feel like any of this had to do with something other than your professional ability? Because obviously you're very gifted that way.
I mean,
are you going to say no comment?
Are you implying like it had anything to do with me being Jewish?
Possibly. I don't know. It feels like it feels like he's very what's the word I'm looking for? It seems like he had like an
He's very white.
It seems like he has an irrational dislike toward you for no real reason.
Well, I mean, actually, early on in my career, he had, dare I say, an irrational liking towards me. Like, he was very kind to me. He was very accessible. He was very open, always giving me time, giving me opportunities. And I think over time, because maybe I got some of those opportunities, and in his mind, like, he went out of his way to do me these quote unquote favors, he expected certain things back from me. And look, I always just wanted to be a journalist, you know, and of course, if someone's going to give you a big interview or a big scoop, like, you're going to take it because that comes with journalism. But, you know, you don't expect other things back, or at least to be asked of you, that would put you in a tough spot, compromise your journalistic integrity, your ethics and whatnot. And I actually feel like it was his business partner, Lorenzo Fertitta, who really didn't like me. I think Dana always had a soft spot for me, and I know this from our conversations that we had off the record. But I think it was Lorenzo who Dana will always be indebted to, who just kind of didn't like me because I would talk about certain things like fighter pay and unions and the competition, Bellator, etc. And I think increasingly Lorenzo would get annoyed of all of this talk that I would have on my show, and kind of got Dana to sort of turn on me. But even when he banned me, he told me that Lorenzo was the one behind it, which I thought was quite telling. So now, you know, 6 years later, I think he doesn't like me because I think he's almost convinced himself that I'm this evil person that, you know, but, you know, look at my track record. I've never reported anything inaccurately. I've never reported salacious things. I've never made it personal. I've never, you know, tried to hit him below the belt or anything like that. But I just think that he feels like I was ungrateful because of the stuff that Lorenzo kind of planted in his mind. And, you know, he doesn't like me as a result. I represent, you know, a guy who like took opportunities and didn't repay the favor. But that's fine. I mean, look, at the end of the day, I've talked to him a lot, and I'm very thankful and grateful. And I said this to him to his face. If he doesn't want to talk to me again for the rest of time, I'm okay with that. I could live with that. In fact, I would even argue that there's a relief that comes without having that relationship. I would just, you know, hope that we don't make it personal, you know, and this has happened where it's affected my livelihood, my jobs, things of that nature. There's a difference between like not talking to someone and then trying to hurt someone. And that's the part that doesn't sit well with me. It's the first part that I can totally understand and live with and be at peace with. I just don't like when it crosses that line. So that's what I hope for in the future, that, you know, it just remains, hey, you don't want to talk to me? Great. You don't want to give me information? Great. You want to give me the time? Great. But just like, let's not cross that line.
100%. But what's awesome about this, what's incredible, is that Ariel has built such a big platform on his own that he doesn't really need these guys anymore, which is awesome. So, Mazel tov to you.
I think in a certain way, that's what he's trying to emulate, right?
100%. Ariel branded himself. I'm trying to brand myself. I just don't know what my brand is yet, but I'm working on it. I'll get there by 90.
How often do you do your podcast?
So I do a show called the MMA Hour every Monday and Wednesday. I do another show called the Ringer MMA Show for Spotify. The MMA Hour is for Vox. Spotify, I do a show usually Thursdays and Saturdays for them. And then I've been doing a solo project that's completely my own, which I think you would, understand why I would gain so much gratitude from this and just like joy out of this project. Since I left ESPN last summer, I started my own podcast, completely independent of everyone. It's just mine. I pay for, the production, all that stuff. Called the Ariel Helwani Show, where I just interview everyone under the sun outside of the world of MMA. So people, I've long wanted to prove to people that I could be the best interviewer, period. I could be the best interviewer in sports, the best. I don't want to just be the MMA guy. And so I've had a ton of interesting people from outside the world of MMA. I'm very proud of it. Where I put up these sort of hour-long interviews on my YouTube channel, on podcast, the Ariel Helwani Show. And we've had some really great conversations. People who have nothing to do with MMA. I had a Peloton instructor a couple of weeks ago. I've had Jeremy Schaap, who's a tremendous journalist. I had an F1 driver, a football player, Brooke Burke, the actress, or you're the TV host, if you're familiar with her. Just different, Michael Rappaport, the comedian, like just different people from different walks of life to show people that I can, hold these conversations and conduct great interviews with people who aren't fighters as well. So I've really, really enjoyed that. So, I mean, there are some weeks where I'm doing, 5 shows a week.
Ariel is an awesome interviewer because that's one of the things I take pride in, being not me personally, but in watching and being able to identify. Ariel's a great listener. I probably interrupt too much. Couple things. So,
and talk about yourself.
That's part of my brand. Karm, if you say Hitler's name, what do you say immediately after that? What did you say?
Yimach Shmo.
Yimach Shmo, erase his name. I say that for a different reason. I cannot stand this dude, the Schmo. There's a journalist, a quote-unquote journalist named the Schmo.
Okay.
And he's a shtick guy, he's got yellow glasses. And he
but
goes
why
to
do you even have
because
to?
It bothers me because guys like Ariel are banned from some of these press conferences, and this kid plays
No. Just to be clear, I'm not banned from anything.
You're not?
There's revisionist history. I was banned for 2 days. And I've been to many a UFC since then, but I think people have kind of like erased I choose to not go anymore because I don't feel, as you said, that I have to go. And I have so much going on here, and I have 3 kids, and I want to go to soccer, and I kind of been there, done that, the thing of going to an event every single couple weeks. So I'm not banned from anything.
Wow. Okay. I'm glad you clarified that because I thought you were.
Thank you. No.
Oh.
I was banned for 48 hours. That's it. They rescinded the ban. You can even see the statement that is online.
Oh, stand corrected. And I'm happy to hear that. But anyway, I still can't stand the Schmo. Anyway, so Ariel, we're going to end this out. This is going to be a one
That's it?
word.
You just wanted to say that? You just wanted to get that off your chest?
Yeah. Just not I feel like he...
Okay,
I mean, I get what he's trying to do, but like
you see, again, he talks about his
No,
feelings.
I'm talking about Ariel spends a lot of time and effort on this, and it's like he muddies
don't
Ariel's waters, not mine.
No, it's fine.
No, it doesn't muddy. It doesn't even come to his ankle.
Okay, 100%.
Now,
Karm is the best. I love moms. You're amazing. God bless you.
thank you.
Ariel, let's play the MMA association game. I'm going to give you one word, and you give me a one-word response.
Okay.
You ready? Pride.
Well, I was going to say FC, Pride FC, but Japan. I mean, it's hard to just say one word. Massive crowds, Bob Sapp, Big Nog, Mirko Krokop, Fyodor Emelianenko. The heyday of MMA.
Karm, you're going to know nothing about this. BJ Penn.
Hilo, legend, Hawaii. At one point, the best fighter in the world. Sorry.
Yeah, the prodigy. Royce Gracie.
Pioneer, trailblazer, founding
Georges
father,
St. Pierre,
the greatest ever. Period.
From
Must be Haiti.
No,
Georges St. Pierre
close.
from Montreal.
From Montpellier.
Well-
I thought he was from Haiti.
No, that's.
No.
I mean, I could see why you would say that. To be exact, Saint Isidore, Quebec, Canada, just outside of
Saint
Montreal.
Isidore.
So he's the greatest ever to fight. If Ariel says it, I say it. Conor McGregor.
Also a pioneer in some respects. Game changer.
Works for charities. Because I see him from advertising.
Only charity he works for is Proper 12 Whiskey. He made a
No.
gazillion dollars.
No.
Daniel Cormier. So cute.
My friend.
I love it. John Jones.
Incredible fighter, but could have been greater.
He got in a lot of trouble. Did a lot of drugs. Did a lot of stupid. He once hit a pregnant woman with his car. Burt Watson.
Oh, Mensch.
Love that guy. Pissed me when he got rid of Burt Watson and Stitch. That's when I kind of turned on the UFC.
Yeah.
Dana White.
You can say very white.
Dana White, I would say, one of the greatest promoters of all time, and the UFC wouldn't be where it is today without him.
Chael Sonnen.
The bad guy, the American gangster, my co-host for 3 years, and one of a kind.
Mauro Ranallo.
Greatest combat sports play-by-play man of all time. No one is able to do MMA, boxing, pro wrestling, kickboxing like Mauro. No one would even attempt to do it. And he could do it.
You got to hear this guy.
seamlessly.
Which, by the way, I mean, I'm just going to sound bitter, but John Anik is so sterile to me. I mean, Brendan Fitzgerald is more sterile than him, but anyway, Mauro Ranallo. Karm, I'm going to make you listen to him. Last but not least, Anderson Silva.
The Spider, one of the greatest ever, greatest middleweight champion ever. And hey, how about the fact that at 47, he's turning back the clock. He's giving all us old guys something to be proud of. And yeah, that's right. I called myself an old guy.
And does he fight Jake Paul, and does he win?
I think there is a chance that he fights Jake Paul. I can't say definitively. And honestly, I think there's a chance he wins, but I think there's a chance he loses. Like, I think it's a 50-50 fight.
Karm, I've said this before, but not frequently. I don't really know Ariel, but I sort of love him in a weird way. Like, he's just a gentle, sweet. He's a gentle, sweet. Look at him. Just a gentle, sweet soul. Have I been envious of his career? Of course, but I respect him a lot. He's doing phenomenally well. What are your thoughts? You thought this was going to be a show about fighting?
No.
Which, by the way, Ariel, one question I did not ask, which I would be remiss if I didn't. Some fighters have given reporters a lot of crap for not training themselves. Do you train MMA?
Very early in my career, I did jiu-jitsu. And then I got really, really intense about the career. However, I've always been interested in boxing and the sort of technical aspect of boxing, more so than jiu-jitsu, believe it or not. And for the year prior to March 2020, I was boxing 2 to 3 times a week at a gym next to my house, and I loved it. And then, of course, the pandemic hit, and that became problematic. And I've actually, as of last week, just started again. So
It's interesting you say that. My phone just rang.
Oh.
And it was Josh Dempsey. He is the grandson of Jack Dempsey, and he teaches me boxing here in Miami Beach. He's a wild story. He fought in K1.
Wow.
His brother fought in the UFC. He fought under a different name. It'll come to me, and I'll email it to you. But it's interesting because I love boxing too. Boxing is so mental, and it's to me it's the best Prozac in the world. I hit mitts and I feel like $1 million.
Oh, it's great. It's wonderful. Yep. I couldn't agree more. It's a lot of fun, and you also could appreciate things a little more, but just like kind of seeing how it all comes together and the intricacies of it all. I enjoy that immensely.
As I was saying, Karm, I don't know. I have a very soft, sweet spot for Ariel, and I don't like most people. What?
It's not true. He's a very friendly, jovial
Yeah,
person.
I love it. I feel like if we were at Syracuse together, we'd be best friends today. And who knows? My sister lives not far away. Maybe I'll see him in the park one day. But what are your thoughts on Ariel? Now, we usually talk
she
about
lives
this.
in West Orange.
We usually talk about this after the guest has left. But what are your thoughts on Ariel?
We talked about this before he came because I watched his video, his podcast,
Mhm.
and I said to you, I wish he were my son, and you said, "What you don't? Is it a criticism of me that I'm?" I said, "No, I always wanted to have 4 sons." I said that before I met you.
Wow.
It's,
Ariel,
on,
what do you
the,
mean?
it's on the video. When you see it, you'll see.
Ariel, what do you call your mother? You call
I
her?
call her mom, like MAM.
Uh-huh.
I love her dearly, and I'm going to send this to her. First, I'm going to tell her that I did this.
Are you an only child?
No, I have 2 older brothers and 1 younger sister.
Oh, you are blessed.
Wow. Are your
And,
brothers in the sports business? No.
No, not at all. I mean, we grew up loving sports. They both live in New York, and my sister lives back home in Montreal. And it's funny that we're talking on a Thursday because since the pandemic, every Thursday I speak to my grandmother, who I call Tata. She lives in Montreal. And you remind me of my grandmother. She is very sharp. She's a fighter. She has been through a lot as well. She was kidnapped by the PLO in 1980 and put in jail when they were in Beirut. So, she hasn't been through the Holocaust like you, but...
it's good enough. It's Daenu.
Daenu. But so you remind me of her, and she could do something like this as well. But no, this has been great. I enjoyed it. I'm honored that you guys would want to have me on and talk to me. And I think it's, honestly, I give you a lot of credit, Joel, because these are memories, these are experiences that, not a lot of us get to do with our mom, and you're taking taking advantage of all the time that you have together. And you'll always look back on these episodes with great fondness. And it's like a gift that you're creating for yourself and your future, your kids, your grandchildren, all that stuff. So God bless and thank you guys. I wish you both the best.
Wait a second. You have to ask a question. What?
Oh, Ariel, we talk about this every episode. So Karmela instituted a law on this show that I must ask the guest what I can do for them. So Ariel, what can I do for you?
What can you do for me? Well, I'll tell you just the first thing that came to mind is don't bellyache when your mom asks you for the Tupperware back. Appreciate it. Be thankful. Have Shabbat dinner together. Spend your weekends together. Enjoy every minute, because I will tell you, I feel very guilty that I don't get to spend as much time with my parents. Thank God they're in good health and they're alive and well. And this is one of my goals coming up, that I can be closer to them. But if mom makes you spaghetti and gives you some damn Tupperware, give the Tupperware back with a smile and say thank you.
I'm definitely going to do that. And listen, we're not begging for subscribers, but we are. So subscribe on our YouTube channel, and please get your mom to subscribe. She'll like this show.
Oh, she's
Your
gonna
grandma,
love it.
not your mom, your grandma.
You
I'll
think your
send it to
mom will
both.
like it?
I think she's going to adore it.
Awesome.
I
Make
think
sure
both
she's
of
a
them will love it.
So send love
Don't worry,
to both
Ariel. I'm
of
going to be in
them.
touch. I need you to help me promote on your social, and I might come after you for your uncle as well. So you just got
Oh.
yourself in trouble.
Good luck with that one.
He's hustling. He's hustling too hard and too much.
Hey, I know how to guilt. I'll guilt Gaad Saad badly.
Are you one of these guys who has people on their show and then pesters them about promoting it? Because don't be that guy.
Yeah, but he is. I wouldn't even bring it
I would
up.
never do it. I'm just going to have my mother email
That's
you.
the one thing you can't. You always have to. The key. I have guests on all the time, right? And the key to
Listen
having
to this.
them back, you don't want people to just come once. You want them to be like, that was fun, I'm going to come back. You don't want to be like, oh, if I come on, he's going to keep me on forever. He's going to ask me to promote it. He's going to do this. He's going to bring
No,
up
but
all these
it's
uncomfortable
true, it's true.
things.
And he will talk incessantly about himself.
He'll
Oh,
talk about
Karm.
himself. He'll never ask a question. He'll bring up the low moments in your career. You don't want to be that guy. I'm not saying you are that guy and you did that, but I'm just telling you don't want to be that guy.
George,
Ariel,
listen to advice.
It-
I like when they beat you up and not me. Some people beat me up, especially those who have bad relationship with their mother.
Honestly, it was a thrill. It was a thrill. I remember I went to Affliction at the whatever, the Anaheim Stadium, and I remember you were there, and this is before you were you, and I was still me, I guess, but this is before you're a big guy. And I think we were both waiting to talk to Josh Barnett. This was like 2000. I don't know when this was. So it's weird. We've kind of crossed paths in weird ways. But again,
thank you.
This was a special episode from me.
Thank you, because he's very. He told me a million times.
Jews can't say goodbye, man.
No, Jews can't say it.
It's unbelievable. It's been going on for 10 minutes. What are you going to say, Karm?
No, I wanted to say how much you were anticipating, and I was kind of getting frustrated that I would have to be quiet the whole time.
No,
anyway,
there's
very
more
nice
to me. I'm not just an
meeting you,
MMA
and
guy.
Good luck to you, and God bless you.
Definitely not just an MMA guy. Ariel, please send your mother our love and your dad.
I will. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Okay,
Hey,
thank you.
Ariel, thank you, man.
Welcome back. It's time for the news schmooze.
Karm, my OCD is, ever since we had Bary Michels, the therapist of the stars, my OCD is kicking back up. What do you think of Ariel Helwani?
Joel, we are not playing. It was funny in the beginning. We didn't hear him. We are taping before we see him.
On to the
but
news schmooze.
I saw him on. By the way, I saw him on videos, and I would be proud that if he would be my son.
It's a dig?
No,
It's a dig.
No,
He's
I
actually
wanted
a
to.
successful journalist.
No. I wanted to have 4 sons, so he could be one of the 4.
On to the news schmooze. Karm, we're not even going to really address it in detail because we all know what happened, and this is going to air a week after it already happened, and it'll be out of the news. But what was your thought on the latest mass shooting? But this time, another school shooting.
You know what happens?
Sandy Hook 2.0. We'll get into it in a second, but let me just tell you a couple things that they've found out since the shooting. I'm not going to mention the shooter's name because he doesn't deserve to. But he told, the governor revealed this, and it's been substantiated in other reporting, that he said, I'm going to shoot my grandmother. He was on a text exchange with a woman in Germany, FaceTime call, I believe. And then he shot his grandmother. He said he's going to an elementary school. These were one-to-one text messages that were discovered after the tragedy with, as I said, a woman in Germany. One of his friends said that he would show up with cuts all over his face. He said it was from a kitten or a cat, and then admitted that he was cutting his face. In middle school, he was bullied for having a stutter and a strong lisp, and obviously last week it became too much to bear, and he decided, instead of just taking his own miserable life, he was going to kill 19 young little kids and 2 teachers. There's no solution to this, is there?
Well, we cannot always blame the media or the internet, but certainly if they are worried about one word and they get you off Facebook, and they worry about things that are not as unbelievably dangerous as this one, then they should focus more when people start to make threats. And I think he posted guns, right? I have to make a statement.
Yes.
I feel horrible. I was walking around, and I was like feeling all the weight of the world, and I find it very disgusting that everybody who will now talk about the MMA or whoever talks about anything, they all feel like this. The proper thing is to go first into a big statement about how heartbroken they are about it. Obviously, we are all heartbroken about it. All of us.
You know, there's an NBA coach. His name is Steve Kerr. Have you heard of him?
No.
His father, which it's amazing. So he was very angry the day this happened. There was a playoff game, and he said he's not talking about basketball, and he went crazy and called out politicians. His dad was killed in a terrorist attack in the Middle East when he was a young boy. So you don't want to hear from Steve Kerr. Is that what you're saying? Or
no, what I'm saying is that they think it's almost like putting in a token into the phone in all times. they feel like they have to say something about it. Otherwise, they are not proper. They are not doing the right protocols.
Okay, well,
Everybody knows everybody's heartbroken. Everybody is destroyed about it. And then, don't start to talk about mixed martial arts. Or
Karm,
then,
we're about to talk about mixed martial arts.
I know. Then talk about
we
this. Then don't talk about mixed martial arts.
Is there a solution to this problem? Good old Ted Cruz said there should only be one entrance and exit to a school. That's his solution, to basically create fire traps and not address the gun. Should the gun issue be addressed, Karmela? Yes or no?
Of course it should be addressed.
And what about these gun-toting Americans that are all into the Second Amendment who don't want their guns taken away?
It's so complicated, and
there was a state senator or state rep.
It's very complicated
right here in
because
Florida,
yesterday
he threatened Joe Biden, said, if you take away our guns, you'll see what happens to you, is what he said yesterday. I mean, so is there a solution? You're my mother. You're supposed to come up with solutions. Is there a solution to the gun problem?
You are an adult and I'm a senile old woman. So why would I be on the spot to come up with a solution?
Are we going to see
It's one of the biggest problems. But why is it that in America they shoot, even here in Miami, which is relatively not a violent city,
Miami's like the most wild place on earth. What are you talking about?
No, but it's like
There's
people
4
just
homicides
shoot
here a day in the 80s.
In the 80s, but not now.
No, not now.
And they still, there are the guns and there is the
Do
road.
you
I
get
don't understand road rage. What? Are they normal? So somebody passes me the wrong way, I'm going to shoot them?
That's probably how I'm going to die.
Yeah, because you're always passing people the annoying way.
I'm asking you a question. Is there a solution to this problem? Yes or no?
Of course there is a solution to this problem.
I don't believe there is. You think there is?
There is.
Okay.
There is a solution to this, but it's a very, very hard to achieve this solution.
What I told my...
And it won't happen overnight. And we always expect everything to happen overnight.
What I told my stunningly brilliant and beautiful wife is that this has now, mass shootings have now become covering Black Friday on Thanksgiving and retail sales during the holidays, which by this I mean...
routine.
It's routine. You could replace whatever every Thursday or every Friday after Thanksgiving for 100 years. I've done stories on Black Friday. I could have taken a story from 2003 and aired it, and it would be no different than my story from 2020.
Or when you're standing in the water in the hurricane.
Correct. The cycle is exactly the same. The media goes crazy. They all descend on the town. They talk about the details of the shooting. The next day, they air the faces of the victims. The day
and
after
the third day, they disappear.
The third day, they start, like today, they're blaming the police.
No, they blame the first day.
Well, by the way, what did you think of Beto O'Rourke jumping into that meeting last week?
I'm not familiar with it.
He went in and it was a political stunt, and I thought he looked like a jackass. Anyway, we got to move on because we've got the great Ariel Helwani. 2/3 of Americans are trying to keep their financial struggles a street secret, and I'm one of them. A recent survey...
You just bragged 5 minutes ago how many people
I didn't tell you I paid them $20 a month each.
Oh.
A recent survey of 2,000 U.S. adults found that 66% avoid social events because they feel embarrassed or uncomfortable about their financial situation. They've steered clear of birthday parties, weddings, happy hours, networking events, etc., etc. And some, and I fall into this category, 67% engage in stress shopping when they feel financially overwhelmed and end up buying things they don't need.
You do that?
Me? Never.
No, I never do that. I never do that. I tell you what I do. I really start to worry and I call you and you get very angry at me.
And it kicks my OCD up, and then I do a podcast with you, which kicks my OCD up and even more. And then I'm just exhausted. And
maybe you should do what he did with his grandmother.
Killed his grandmother. Same thing that happened in Sandy Hook. The guy killed his mother. The grandmother didn't die. On average, what do you think people think they need to earn a minimum of a year to never feel stressed about finances again?
Can I just say something to you?
Yeah.
It is a tremendous difference if you do it in New York
This is an average American poll across the entire United States. I'm asking you, what is the average number you think people feel they need to earn to not feel stressed about?
Enough to cover all their bills.
Give me a number.
I don't have a number. With inflation, it's more than yesterday.
$86,000. Do you know what I feel like I need?
I don't want to hear it. You are constantly...
$151 million would relax me. That's what would relax me.
You are a spoiled baby boy.
On to the last story. This one I thought was interesting. Do you know who Nancy Crampton Brophy is?
Absolutely not.
She's 71 years old. She wrote a book a few years ago, a best-selling book called How to Murder Your Husband. You know what she did?
She murdered her husband.
She was just convicted on Wednesday of second-degree murder for shooting dead her chef husband, Daniel Brophy, who's younger, 63, while he was working at the Oregon Culinary Institute. Police said he was shot twice and was found dead by his students. She had the plan in place, the deputy district attorney claimed in closing arguments last week. She had the opportunity to carry out the murder. She was the only one who had the motive, and she was convicted. Sometimes... what do they say? Truth is more...
no, the reality is better than art.
Than fiction.
Something
close.
Yeah.
They were in a loving relationship of more than 25 years. You know what the motive was? 'Cause I do.
Jealousy.
Money. $1.5 million insurance policy. And we'll be right back with 3 questions for Grandma.
It's time now for 3 questions for Grandma.
You see, I'm very disappointed.
Why are you disappointed?
No more passion in the world. I thought she killed him out of jealousy.
Oh, you're still talking about the last story.
Yeah.
She wasn't jealous. She wanted the money. Everyone wants the money.
Okay.
Liliana has an insurance policy. You know, I tried to get a larger policy out on her than me, but you can't do that. Do you know that?
No, I didn't
You
know.
have to. There's a law. You have to have like equal numbers. I tried to take a larger policy, and then maybe she mysteriously would have disappeared.
All right, it's not funny. You
3 questions for Grandma. First one from the oldest, Vita Aaliyah, turning 8 in a few weeks. This was a sad one. Came out of left field. By the way, she came in, she saw that I was watching the news about the kids killed, and she said, "What are you watching? What did those kids do?" And I said, "Oh, they just won a science contest." I lied very quickly. She said, "Oh, that's nice." Her question, why do people shave their head when they have cancer?
They don't shave their heads. The hair falls out from the medicine.
Yeah, but a lot of times they shave it afterwards.
Okay. Next.
Comes from Zizi Elise, who is 6 years old. How do strings work? She doesn't understand. She says that things are solid, like a straw doesn't bend. But when she builds bracelets, crafts bracelets, the strings form around her beads. She wants to know, how does that work?
I was thinking the other day, how do they make rings? I still don't have a conception.
Well, she was asking the same question.
I don't know how are strings manufactured or rope.
You know what's interesting about children? I've driven down Harding Ave, where the building collapsed in Surfside, 43,000 times in the last 2 years. Yesterday, I was driving down, and my kid goes, "Look at the tree." And I looked up. There's like a 500-foot tree that's on a weird angle that I never noticed because you just don't look up as an adult.
Which kid? The little one?
Yeah.
The 3-year-old?
Yeah. J-Mac. And it's like some unusual tree that's 500 times taller than every other tree. They call that there's like a meditative term for that. The beginner's eye or something. But anyway, children see things much differently. On to the last question. Judah Mack now must be a participant in this. He came running in his bathrobe from 3 rooms over when he heard us talking questions. He said, how do. Took him like 4 hours, and he finally spit out the question. His question is, how do you call the police? Good question, right?
There's a special short number. Or you can program it into your phone.
What is the number?
911.
And if you call it in Broward County here in Florida, no one's coming.
You can count on it.
I've done stories on it. There's they're short, like 90 911 dispatchers. So JMac, don't call Broward County. Karm, how'd you like the show today?
Joel, don't be funny because we didn't have the show yet. Are you keeping an eye on it?
I am. He's coming right up. Love you, America. Don't forget, vote for BJ Penn for governor of Hawaii. And vote for Ariel Helwani as MMA Journalist of the Year. We're going to get into it with...
Who is BJ Penn?
You're going to find out. You're going to know by the time this comes up because we're going to talk about it with Ariel Helwani. Love you, America.
I love you, America. And I hope you have a very quiet, dull situation where nothing horrible, exciting happens now, just even and steady.